Hark the sound of myriad voices rising in their might.
This year we celebrate the 100th anniversary of women winning the right to vote, which became official on August 26, 1920. Suffragists literally wrote women into American history, as this wonderful illustration from 1915 suggests. Many people find it amazing that women weren't always considered equal citizens, but it's true. For years, only men voted on the issues and candidates of the day. In 1920, Congress gave women the vote by passing the 19th Amendment. But women weren't really given the vote by men. Women won the vote by persuading voters and by winning elections. One of the movement's early leaders, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, pictured here on the right with Susan B. Anthony, remembered that, night after night by an old-fashioned fireplace, we plotted and planned the coming agitation. Their goal was a new constitutional amendment that enfranchised women, and they regularly testified for it before congressional committees. Susan B. Anthony showed exceptional courage when she actually went to the polls and voted in 1872. Anthony was not only lampooned as the woman who dared, but she was also arrested, tried, and convicted of voting, which was a crime only because she was a woman. African American women also showed great courage in the face of injustice, both before and after the Civil War. Sojourner Truth, a former slave, spoke out for equality and preached extensively throughout the eastern states. Women in African American communities worked for decades, largely separate from white suffragists. Over time, black women's clubs and the Baptist Church became major centers of suffrage activity throughout the country. Suffragists were discouraged when they found little support in Congress, so they began a series of difficult but exciting electoral campaigns to win the vote in individual states. They waged 14 state campaigns between 1867 and 1900, but they won only two, Colorado and Idaho. The two western territories that had already approved women's suffrage, Wyoming and Utah, became equal suffrage states in the 1890s. These four states, symbolized by four stars, were the only places women could vote equally with men until 1910. In 1910, New York suffragists launched a series of vibrant, colorful parades that dramatically showed women's growing demand for the vote. These festive demonstrations, complete with floats and marching bands, drew tens of thousands of marchers and hundreds of thousands of spectators. Between 1900 and 1920, suffragists waged another 40 state campaigns. Remarkably, they won 11 of them, nearly all in the West. By 1919, women could vote equally with men in 15 states. The final battle in Washington, D.C. included an intense lobbying drive that grew to involve hundreds of women throughout the nation. At the same time, suffragists, led by Alice Paul, also began picketing Woodrow Wilson's White House. This was the first time the White House had been picketed, and it drew national attention. The silent picketers were part of an unprecedented, direct action campaign that held Wilson responsible for passage of the 19th Amendment. Finally, the strength of their demand and the force of their pressure won out. In response to the picketing and hunger strikes, the intense lobbying, and particularly the real political gains in so many states, both houses of Congress passed the 19th Amendment in 1919. Tennessee ratified it in August 1920, and after 72 years of effort, over 20 million women were enfranchised. This was the largest single extension of suffrage without a revolution, and it was accomplished solely through nonviolent action. Looking back over 35 years of work, Carrie Chapman Catt was ecstatic. She declared, "I have lived to realize the great dream of my life, the enfranchisement of women. We are no longer petitioners, we are not wards of the nation, but free and equal citizens. Let us practice the dignity of a sovereign people."
There is a band of women, and to our manor born, emerging from the darkness past and looking toward the morn. Their mothers labored, waited through a night without a star. The morning shows a suffrage flag that bears the woman's star. Hurrah, hurrah, for equal rights, hurrah. Hurrah for the suffrage flag that bears the woman's star. This band is for all reforms, war shall be at an end. Bayonets and swords shall rust, we'll use the brain, the pen. Laden with precious freight, now thunders on the progress car. At the headlight waves a suffrage flag that bears the woman's star. Hurrah, hurrah, for equal rights, hurrah. Hurrah for the suffrage flag that bears the woman's star. The ship of state for ages was guided by starlight, till the cluster in our flag almost dispelled the night. 'Tis Freedom's Day, our flag shall be a sun no night can mar. We'll add the light of the suffrage flag that bears the woman's star. Hurrah, hurrah, for equal rights, hurrah, hurrah, for the suffrage flag that bears the woman's star. Thus evolves the grandest triumph of dual human race. Church and state, the home and school, and law and love embrace. We'll have a perfect